Has Donald Trump done it again?
Last night, we reached a momentous breakthrough in the Middle East, something that people said was never going to be done. We ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday.
He is the president of peace, isn't he? And the left, with their Trump derangement syndrome, just can't cope with it. Here he is just moments ago as he boarded Air Force One to fly to Egypt.
This is a very special event. They had 500,000 people yesterday and today in Israel, and also the Muslim and Arab countries are all cheering. Everybody's cheering at one time. That's never happened before. Usually if you have one cheering, the other isn't. The other is the opposite. This is the first time everybody is amazed and they're thrilled, and it's an honor to be involved, and we're going to have an amazing time.
Well, astonishingly, Hamas have declared they are ready to relinquish control of Gaza, and the Israeli hostages are set to be released. And who's the one man at the centre of this? Well, it's not Joe Biden, it's not Kamala Harris, it's not Keir Starmer, and it's not Emmanuel Macron. It is Donald J. Trump, the man the establishment mocked, the man the so-called experts dismissed, the man they told us was too dangerous to be allowed back in office. And yet, it is Trump who has forced Hamas and Israel into a corner where real concessions are being made on both sides. It's Trump who has proved that American strength and clarity, not weakness and dithering, are the foundation of lasting peace. Do you remember the Abraham Accords? That brought together normalising relations between Israel, the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco. All of that happened under Trump's watch. The same people, of course, who called him reckless are now watching him unlock the first serious breakthrough of peace since October the 7th. Now, contrast that with the man the left placed on the highest pedestal, Barack Obama. Do you remember him? Well, he won a Nobel Peace Prize before he even stepped foot in the Oval Office. And then what did he go on to do? He went on to bomb and drone strike swathes of the Middle East, dragging America into more conflicts, not less. Trump, by contrast, is the only modern president who hasn't started a new war. So let's talk about this deal, shall we? Because 20 hostages are set to be released in one coordinated convoy. In return, Palestinian detainees will be swapped back after the Red Cross confirms safe passage. There will be no sick Hamas propaganda shows as Israeli hostages are freed. And a ceasefire that is set to hold, we hope, while Gaza's future is negotiated. And at the heart of it, Trump will be arriving in Egypt, sitting down with Middle Eastern leaders to hammer it all out. But alongside him, you're going to see the weak and pathetic leadership of our continent, Europe. Keir Starmer is desperate to be there. He is desperate for a photo opportunity, isn't he? He's never in Britain anymore. I wonder why. But ask yourself, what has Starmer actually done to help achieve peace? Well, only weeks ago, he promised to recognise a Palestinian state.
So today, to revive the hope of peace and a two-state solution, I state clearly, as Prime Minister of this great country, that the United Kingdom formally recognises the state of Palestine.
Well, believe it or not, that statement was cheered by Hamas leadership. It wasn't diplomacy, was it? It was appeasement at its worst. A pathetic attempt, in my opinion, to secure the pro-Gaza Muslim vote here at home. He's done nothing to move the needle for peace, but he has done something. He's helped Hamas, in my opinion. He helped them in this situation, not Israel and not America. He made a frustrated plea to get that Palestinian state recognised without us even knowing where the borders would be. In fact, even the US ambassador to Israel today slammed the Labour government as delusional after Minister Bridget Phillipson made spurious claims that she couldn't back up, alluding to the idea that they played a critical role in this peace deal. But the truth is, Nobody cares what Keir Starmer or his best friend, little Napoleon Emmanuel Macron think. Trump is the only man that matters. That's a shame because we used to be a powerful country. Our voice and our Prime Minister used to matter. It doesn't matter anymore, does it? And let's be clear. Hamas aren't stepping back from Gaza out of goodwill. They're doing it because Donald Trump has shifted the balance. He's used power. Regional partners around Gaza and around Israel know they cannot ignore the power of America. And Israel knows Trump has got their back on this one, even though he has pushed back on them too. Now, the liberal press will tell you this is all fragile, uncertain, and it's all just talk. But here's the truth. Fragile peace is better than certain war. And when Trump is in the room, the conversation changes. The language is an empty diplomacy, it's hard bargains and clear consequences. If this deal holds, history will look back and say this was the beginning of the end of Hamas as rulers of Gaza. And it will be Trump, not Biden, not Keir Starmer, not our weak EU leaders who deserves or gets the credit. It will be the President of the United States. In fact, they might look back on all of our leaders and go, how pathetic and useless were you lot? Because whether you love him or you hate him, and I know there's a mixed feeling about Donald Trump, he has once again achieved something that was thought impossible. That's why, without hesitation, I say he is the peace president. Now let's get the thoughts of my panel tonight. Businessman and activist Adam Brooks, political commentator Chloe Dobbs and former Minister Bill Remmell. Thank you all very much for joining me. Adam, this is a historic day. And I know that this country has very split feelings about Donald Trump. I know our audience are a little bit more partial to him than most are. But we should, even Hillary Clinton has praised Donald Trump for this.
Look, there's no way you cannot say it was Donald Trump that did this. Only days before the actual peace deal was announced, he threatened Hamas with total obliteration. Now, they're not stupid. They know they can either live, maybe to fight another day, and survive, or they will be wiped out. And they've come to the table. Sometimes threats need to be issued to get people to the table. Now, for me, for Keir Starmer to say that he had an important role in this is just laughable. Is it another, what do they call it, of the willing?
Coalition of the willing.
Coalition of the willing. What a load of nonsense. At the end of the day, Donald Trump is the man pulling the strings. Only he can be accredited to this. And for Labour to try and take credit in any way is embarrassing. And I do honestly think, behind the scenes, Donald Trump and the US administration cannot stand our Prime Minister or this government. But they work with us for unity, you know?
Yeah. Chloe?
So I think, first of all, one thing I'd say is that when I was talking to people in the Middle East in the short time I spent out there, those who understand the terror groups, how they operate, said October 7th would not have happened if Donald Trump was in power. They saw that Joe Biden, a weak leader, was leading the West, and so they thought we can get away with whatever we want. Donald Trump, look, he's had a rocky road to achieving peace where he wants. He made it out as though when he came into power that the war in Ukraine and the war in Gaza would be over within a few days. That didn't happen. It has been difficult, but he is a good negotiator, and he has started to make progress here. And I don't want to celebrate too soon because we know what Hamas are like. We've seen deals where they claim they're going to hand hostages back, and then, we saw them handing the wrong bodies back. So we'll see what happens, but I think this is the most hopeful sign we've had so far, because we've had a lot of ceasefire deals and deals to end the war put forward many times that people got excited about,
yes.
But only one side was agreeing to it and Hamas hadn't. But this time we've actually got Hamas somewhat cooperating for now. But let's not celebrate too soon.
Yeah, Bill, I think regardless of what people think of Donald Trump, it seems to me even his biggest critics have given him some praise today, including Hillary Clinton, who I can't think of someone who probably despises him more, frankly, than Hillary Clinton. Should we be applauding his efforts here?
Yes. Look, I unequivocally welcome the ceasefire and the peace plan. And this is a first for me on this channel. I want to praise Trump's role.
There we go. We've had it.
In achieving
Clip it up.
But Donald Trump has actually changed his view. The 20-point peace plan is a plan that Tony Blair worked with Antony Blinken on in the last 6 months of the Biden administration. And since then, Blair's been working with Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, to shift Trump's position critically that the Palestinians should not be driven out of Gaza, and also that Israel shouldn't rule the territory. And I think the really significant thing that Trump did, unlike, frankly, in my experience, no previous US president, was dictate the terms to Israel. And I think the tipping point was when Israel launched that missile attack on Qatar, and Trump forced Netanyahu to apologise. He said any further attack on Qatar would provoke retaliation from the US, and I think he's brought Israel to the table. Now, having said that this is a very positive development, only 5 of the 20 points are actually in agreement. 6 to 20 are still open for negotiation. So there's a long way to go. Also, the 20-point plan doesn't say anything about the West Bank, which I think is a concern. But undoubtedly, you know, we're going to get the hostages released tomorrow. There's got to be the work to be done on the decommissioning of Hamas's weapons, and there's got to be agreement on the interim administration before you go to Palestinian rule. But this is undoubtedly a positive way forward.
My concern is the fact that in return for releasing the hostages, we've got to release, Israel have got to release a lot of terrorists from prison, and they're going to be let out all out into the wild. And that's one of my big concerns about Gaza, is inevitably you've still got, even if you get rid of all of the Hamas militants, you've got a very radicalised population. It's stopping those groups re-emerging is going to be a very difficult
But Chloe,
task.
that's the reality of any post-conflict situation, whether it was Northern Ireland or whether it's the FARC in Colombia. You have to have some kind of framework that addresses and deals with former terrorists. That's the history of how these problems are resolved.
I was at that march yesterday, the Stop the War Coalition march. There was Palestinian protesters there. I was asking them, you know, there's a ceasefire deal about to happen. Do you think you'll ever stop marching? And all of them are very sceptical of anything that Donald Trump does. So they don't believe Donald Trump. They don't trust. I mean, their criticism is always on Israel. When I ask them, they go, do you think both sides would agree to this? They go, no, I don't trust Israel. I said, do you trust Hamas? They have no comment, which I think maybe you can draw your own conclusions from that. But I think there's a feeling, isn't there? I mean, there's a lot of reasonable people. We all want there to be peace. I want there to be peace more than anything else. I think this world is getting way too dangerous, and we'll all be dragged into the front line. But some people don't seem to want it to end.
No, of course not. And I think those marches, in the name of anti-Israel, are actually anti-Jews. A lot of people in those marches, they are hate marches. And look, we are seeing a peace deal being implemented. And let's remember, I think it's 8 or 10 of the most powerful Muslim countries in the world back this deal. So why do these mostly students not? You know, they're getting a lot of attention from it. It's making them feel special to walk around London shouting their anti-Jewish slogans. Look, the Trump derangement syndrome is real. They hate it that he's done this. Can you imagine if he stops the Ukraine-Russia war? The meltdown on the left is going to be off the charts. And look, how many millions of lives is Donald Trump going to save over this presidency? And for me, he is the peace president, and I think he'd go down in history books. Yeah,
Bill, do you think we've always mischaracterised Trump, or do you think he's, you know, because I mean I remember before there was a moment in the United Nations where he was warning Germany about their reliance on Russian energy, and they literally were sat there laughing at him. And then what happened just a couple of years later? Russia's invaded Ukraine, and the energy prices, because of their reliance on their Russian oil and energy, went through the roof. Should we be taking this man more seriously than we do?
Well, look, Trump has been all over the place on a number of these issues. Frankly, his conduct in respect of Ukraine has been atrocious. You know, that beating up of Zelensky at the White House, I thought, was shocking and disgusting. Some of his language, which is out of the Kremlin playbook of describing what Russia is doing, is wrong as well. And on Israel, Palestine and Gaza, you know, he was actually arguing something completely different when he first came to power. But the fact is, he's moved significantly. Yeah. And I tell you what,
but when he moves, he also does something as well, because, you know, we do see people change. I mean, people change their mind all the time. Politicians move their positions all the time on things when they learn more information, or they come up with maybe someone changing their opinion, like you say may have happened. Isn't it more important, though, that at the end of it they do something? Like, because
absolutely, and that's why I pay tribute to what he's done. But I think the most significant thing is the pressure on Israel. Look, I'm a former Minister of State at the Foreign Office for the Middle East, and I remember talking to the then Deputy Prime Minister of Israel, Tzipi Livni, and she said to me, sometimes, Bill, you guys need to be tougher on us. And that's what Donald Trump has done in this situation. You know, that attack on Qatar, he actually gave Netanyahu a script and said, you ring the leaders of Qatar and you apologise. And, you know, he's really bullied and pressure Israel under Netanyahu to compromise.
Do you think Donald Trump likes Keir Starmer?
Yeah, I do. And, you know, look, this is a man who doesn't, you know, if he dislikes someone, regardless of their position, he says it. Listen to the things he said about Keir Starmer.
I've got to leave it there, unfortunately. I've got one of our viewers here, Zara VN, says, this is all premature. And it might very well be, but as I said in the monologue, I really want it to be, I'd rather have there be a fragile peace than nothing at all. Anyway.